One of the most useful things I ever did to help myself as a musician, as an improviser, as a sight reader, as someone who understands theory, is learn how to quickly recognize chords from the staff. It's so useful because it's kind of like going from reading individual letters, individual notes, to reading whole words or whole sentences or whole paragraphs. It's really useful for condensing a lot of musical information into and boiling it down into just a few different pieces. So today I'm going to show you my favorite tips and tricks for quickly, rapidly recognizing chords so you can grab them on sight. So if you want to grab this worksheet that I'll be using, it's down below and we'll go ahead and get started. So the baseline for recognizing chords is recognizing and understanding what we call the snowman shape. It's kind of like the most basic way that you'll see chords. So I'm going to write these, I'm going to call these snowman chords. And the reason they call them a snowman is that they look like this. They kind of have three notes that are all stacked on top of each other. And what's cool about these chords is they're super easy to identify because the only thing you need to know is what is the bottom note. In this case, that bottom note is C. The full chord looks like this. And when it's in the snowman shape, we know for sure that this is a C chord because it has this chord shape. It's got kind of this play one, then you skip this note, then you play one, then you skip this note, then you play one. And so all of our basic chords, we'll actually call these root position chords because C is what we call the root. It's the name of the chord and it's on the bottom. So we call it root position. Now, these might get mixed around here in a second. And I'll show you some tricks for identifying the roots in those situations too. It's actually pretty simple. Okay, so those are our basic chords. So if I was to go in and write these, I'll give you the answers to this sheet, by the way. We've got C, and then we've got some sort of D chord. Identifying the roots right now, I can go through all of these really quickly. Identify, okay, these are the roots of all of these chords. Now there's one other thing that will be useful for you to be able to recognize. And this isn't required if you're just using this for sight reading. For sight reading, all you really need to know is what are the exact notes that I need to play. It's some sort of D chord. It doesn't really matter what D chord it is. As long as I know, okay, this is some sort of E chord, then that's totally fine. If you want to get a little bit more into improv or into theory or into composition, or if you want to get really advanced with your sight reading, I suppose, you'll also want to be able to identify quickly the quality of the chord. Now, there are two kind of main types of qualities. There's major, which sounds happy and bright, and then there's minor, which sound really dark and scary, kind of or maybe sad, maybe is another common word that we use for minor. And the easiest way to identify these is if we look at our chords. There's a really simple rule to identifying major versus minor chords. The first one is just by your ear. If you play it, you hear how this one sounds darker, right? So this one's probably D minor. So dark, that's E minor. Okay, that's a little bit more happy, right? So we'll call that F major. How do you quickly identify it from the score? This is what can be a little bit challenging. Basically what we want to do is look at this middle note. This middle note is going to determine whether it's major or whether it's minor. Now, when you look at that middle note, what you want to think about is, okay, can this middle note go any lower? If it can go any lower, that means that this is a major chord. So, okay, let's look at D, for example. Can this F go any lower? Well, if it goes any lower, ooh, it becomes an E. That's not a usual chord that we recognize. So this F can't go any lower. So that means this one has to be minor, right? But it could go higher. We could maybe make it F sharp, and that would make this D a major chord. So that's a pretty easy way to identify. Okay, let's look at this E, for example. Can it go any lower? If we brought it one lower, it's going to be what? F sharp, basically. If I raise it, though, I can make E major. So that's how you're going to identify those chords. So again, bonus points as you're going through this, if you do the major and the minor. But if you just want to use this to get better at sight reading, then feel free to just write the letter in. That's good enough for now. Eventually, you might want to, you'll want to get to know these well. Okay, so now the next kind of chord that's a little bit more complicated is what we call an inverted chord. An inverted chord happens when we're mixing up the order of the notes in the C chord. What's so cool about chords is if we take C, G, and E And we mix them up anywhere on the piano. We play G down here, and C here, and then E here. Ah, it actually makes something beautiful. It all makes a C chord. Now it makes a different type or flavor of C chord. It doesn't sound quite the same. And I think it sounds much more beautiful than just this regular snowman chord. So we call those inverted, when the notes are mixed up out of order. Now there's a really easy way to tell what the chord is right away without having to think too hard. To start figuring out what chord this is, for example, we see immediately that it's not in snowman shape, right? It's almost like the snowman is raising his hat, right? His hat is like way up off his head. And so what we can do is we can try and rearrange this note to see if we can bring it back into some sort of snowman shape. And in this case, this note is a C. And if we just simply pretend that it's actually this C, oh, I see my snowman shape now. Ah, okay. So that's how most people start with recognizing these inverted chords. Now, the good news is there's a trick, and here's the trick. The trick is when you look at it at an inverted chord, you see this gap between these two notes, right? Here are these three notes. There's this gap between these two notes. The note that is above the gap is always going to be the root, or the name of the chord, right? Because with this chord, again, I can simply move this note down to the bottom. Oh, move it down an octave. I moved it from here to here. Man, that makes it really easy to see, right? But I don't have to make that switching around move in my brain if I don't have to, because if I recognize that, oh, we've got a little gap here, then I know that this is actually going to be the root, which is really handy. Let's look at it in another situation. In other situations, you'll see different kinds of gaps. So these are all C chords, but you see how this particular inversion has a gap kind of at the top of the chord, and then this one has a gap kind of in the bottom of the chord. And again, both times we want to just look at where is the gap and what's the note right above it. In this case, it's C, so it's going to be a C chord, right? And then this one's going to be a C chord too, because again, that C is above the gap. All that happened between this chord and this chord is that this E jumped up to the top. Awesome. That's a super easy way to recognize the differences between the chords. So again, all of these would be C. And then if you want to get super fancy with it, we'll call this C in root position because the root is on the bottom. This C we'll call C over E. Another name for this would be C first inversion. This is the first kind of inversion we can create by moving the C up to the top. And then this would be C over G, or C second inversion. Again, if you want to kind of go a little bit more classical, because that's kind of the second inversion we can make by moving the bottom note up to the top. So these chords can get real fancy. They can get totally mixed around. Really, really fun. And what's so cool is now I can give you some unfamiliar chords, and I can say, hey, what are the root of all these chords? We've got D here as the root. I'm seeing the gap. That means that the root here is D. This is a D minor chord. And then we've got another D because we've got that gap showing up there. Really handy. Suddenly, all of these chords kind of became the same to you. All you needed to know was what to look for, which is so useful. Okay, and I've got more inverted chord exercises for you to look at, super useful. What I want to get to next is seventh chords. Woo-hoo! So what's so cool about these chords is these are chords that have a fourth note stacked on top. So it's like our snowman got a hat. He's getting a little extra fancy. These are chords that are used in jazz. They're used all over the place, in film scores, in pop music. Seventh chords are everywhere, so you're going to want to know how to recognize these. And again, the basic way to recognize these is, okay, if I can see that they're in a chord, kind of this snowman shape, then there's a good chance that this is most likely going to be a seventh chord if I can see that it's got that extra hat on top. Now, these seventh chords have really strange inversions, and there's another cool trick for me to show you. Here's on the second page. We've got some seventh chord inversions. What's really weird about this fourth note is when we make an inversion out of it, let's say we bring that bottom C up to the top. See how, it creates this weird, like, this weird shape that doesn't look like a chord at all. It looks kind of like, oh, we're like crunching a bunch of notes together. And it does kind of make a, kind of a bitter, kind of jazzy, almost a little too jazzy kind of sound on its own. So now the rule to look for here is whenever you see two notes that are smushed next to each other, the root most likely is going to be this top note. It's kind of like what we did before, right? Again, this top note above the gap is the root. In this case, this extra fourth note is filling that gap, and so we're just going to leave that. We're just going to say, okay, so I see these two notes are smushed together. Top note is going to be the root, right? And I can prove it because I can take this top note, slide it all the way down, take this seed here, and we have the beautiful snowman shape again. And this, these are all C chords, as you can tell, because now we got two smush notes, there's C, two smush notes, there's C, two smush notes, there's C. This one's in root position, so that's C. This one, two smush notes, there's C. Two smush notes, there's C. I know that all of these are some sort of C chord, and they're 7 chords. It makes it so easy to do these really quickly. So let's do this chord really quick. See if you can figure out what chord is this. I know I'm making you read off the staff here a little bit. Oh, I maybe gave it away because I highlighted this note on accident. But this is going to be an F chord, some sort of F, some sort of 7 chord made on F. Well, yeah, I hope you thought that was useful. Feel free to download this below. I'll also include the cheat sheet so you can look at all the answers that I came up with. And I hope you find that this was useful to being able to recognize chords faster. And you'll notice that it starts to help your sight reading, because now we can take all of these crazy chord combinations and we can start making some sense out of them.